Welcome back after that short break. I hope you are enjoying our today's session because certainly I am. Now we have a very interesting Meet the Author session, and let me introduce you to our moderator, Manju Jaidka ma'am. Most of you know her already, but those of you who don't, let me take this opportunity to say something about her. Professor Jaidka has been teaching English since 1974. She has served as professor at Punjab University, Chandigarh, and has held several administrative responsibilities at the university and with Chandigarh administration. Ma'am Jaidka has authored many books and has received many awards and distinctions, including Award for Lifetime Contribution to Literature from Chandigarh Sahitya Academy. She is currently head of department at Shillong University. Ma'am, I welcome you and request you to take over the E stage.
Thank you, Sakshi. And I have some very important announcements to make. The audience, people on the screen, people listening to us, please fasten your seat belts. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seat belts, close your doors, hide under your beds or in the basement. If you have a skeleton in your cupboard, ensure that it does not rattle. Take all possible precautions. As for me, I'm sharing it with you. I've safely hidden the booty that I looted from the bank last week. And that corpse which I planted in my garden last year, I checked this morning, there's a rose bush growing above it, so I'll never be found out. And I checked with my colleagues here. I'm serious. I checked with my colleagues here. And Neeraj, who's doing the technical thing behind the scenes, he told me that his last boss, he had pushed over the hill and the body is still lying somewhere in the ditch. And it must have rotted by now, or the animals must have got it. But it's all between us. It's all between us. As for Sakshi and Purnima, they haven't really done anything. They've just stolen a few hearts, and they're not likely to be taken to task for that. So why am I telling you all this? Why? Because Lady Gumshoe is on her way here, and you'd better beware. You'd better beware. Lady Gumshoe is on her way. With that, let me introduce you. Okay, she's here already. Hi, Manjiri, great to see you. Manjiri Prabhu, great to see you. You've got a long life. We were just talking about you, you know. I was telling them, wow, we are great friends and we met at one time. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a formal introduction to Manjiri because we have just about 30 minutes and I've already taken 2.5. Dr. Manjiri Prabhu holds a doctorate in communication science and she's a short filmmaker. She's an award-winning international author and also the founder director of 2 festivals. She has directed over 200 children's TV programs, more than 50 short fiction and travel films, and she has authored 17 books. 17. Still sweet at 1 and 7, 17. Her unpublished psychological thriller novel was adapted into a Hindi feature film by NFDC, and the title was Kuch Dil Ne Kaha. Her thesis, converted into a book, was called Roles, Real and Real, and it's become a rare reference book for students of Hindi cinema. Manjiri has been acknowledged as a pioneer in India among women writers of mystery fiction, and she has a diverse global fan following. In fact, in the last session, somebody was talking about you, and I said, you hang on, you will meet Manjiri very soon on the screen. She's also the first female mystery author to be published outside India, and she has been labeled as the Indian Agatha Christie, the Indian Agatha Christie. Recently, she's been acknowledged by none other than Shashi Tharoor as a match for Dan Brown, a match for Dan Brown. And Ashwin Sanghi has also praised her work. And she's been abroad, she's been to a number of, she holds her own PILF, Pune International Literature Festival, but she's been abroad to international literature festivals all across the globe, and her novels, The Cosmic Clues, her novel, The Cosmic Clues, was selected as a killer book, a killer book. And I feel like saying the typical Punjabi way, "Ai hai kar di jaan." Right. So her books have been published by various reputed presses like Random House, Jaco, Rupa, and the Times Group of books. As the founder of PILF, she has brought Pune city on the international map of literature and arts festival. Now, you know why we called her here? Because we want to get some tips from her how to bring Shulini Literature Festival on the international map. And Manjiri believes that literature heals and is a prerequisite for a peaceful society. And recently, she's founded the International Festival of Spiritual India for Humanity and Wisdom. She's also been awarded the most inspirational women of Maharashtra. I'm not surprised. Excellence in the field of writing and the most admired leader of Maharashtra. We'd love to have you as a leader, Manjiri. Seriously. And apart from that, she has a lot of other interests, including a love for stray dogs. A quote from her is, "A novel is born several times and dies several times before it takes its final life form." So when we talk about Manjiri, there are three things that come to my mind. PILF is one, the other is detective fiction, and a third, which is not mentioned in her bio, is astrology. Because the last time I met her, which was the first time I met her, she told me about her interest in astrology and how she uses astrology to solve the mysteries that she creates in a book. So we have something to talk about there. So here is the desi Agatha Christie, and because we just have 30 minutes, out of which I've taken 4 or 5 or 6, I am not going to speak too much. I will let Manjiri do the talking. And Manjiri, please tell us about your journey, about your various works, and then about the Trail of 4. I love the subtitle, where the voice of reason and love is the voice of revenge. There is so much ambiguity in it. There is that interplay of love and violence. So Manjiri, over to you. Let's hear what you have to say. Manjiri Prabhu.
Thank you, Manju. That was awesome, the way you introduced me, and I am feeling overwhelmed now listening to all this. I mean, did I really do all that? Is really what I feel like asking myself. I guess it's sheer luck, maybe being, at the right place at the right time, probably, some divine guidance in my life leading me on. I don't know, but I've always believed in just doing things and not thinking too much. Take every moment as it comes, try to do something creative every single time I can. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really thrilled.
Yeah, tell us about your journey. How did you begin as a writer? When did you start writing?
Well, so with journey sounds as if I'm like almost at the end of it, but
no.
I'm just saying, I'm just kidding.
Itself is a journey.
Yes, I know, but still a long way to go to do a lot of things that I want to. But I think I started writing when I was 7 years old. Like all of us, and rather all my age group people will know that we grew up reading Enid Blyton books. We all of us grew up with Enid Blyton books around us, and I was completely bowled over with her writing style, with her characters, with the mysteries she solved. And I was introduced to the genre because of her, and it was because of Enid Blyton that I realized I wanted to be a writer. So I knew the kind of hold she had, in my life, and the way I read her books and devoured her books. I wanted one day people to devour those books, my books too. So yes, that was really, really what, started me off on writing. And later on, of course, we read other books like Agatha Christie books and Wilkie Collins and Jane Austen. And so all that was always there, but all along I knew that there was a writer in me, and I would write no matter what I do in life. So yes, so I've published some books and stuff. And since you mentioned astrology, I think the real breakthrough came in my writing when I wrote The Cosmic Clues and The Astral Lullaby. which, then at that point, that this was in 2004. I think I wrote them in 2002. And I had this brilliant idea, thanks to my mom, who's an astrologer, that astrology can be used. I mean, the Indian horoscopes can be used, in solving crimes. And I wondered why it wasn't done before. So I had this really brilliant idea, saying I was really excited about it. So I created Sonia Samarth, who's a detective from Pune, and she solves different cases with the help of horoscopes. Then, of course, I submitted to Indian publishers. Unfortunately, at that point, it was mainstream fiction wasn't so active, and no one wanted to publish mystery. And I don't know why they didn't want astrology and mystery together. Anyway, the good thing for me was that I got an American agent who got me a fantastic two-book deal with Random House USA. So, it all ended well. And from there was no looking back, because, I was an internationally published author. So that kind of helped in a way. And well, yeah, so I've been writing. And then you mentioned the Trail of Four. So actually, the Trail of Four and Voice of the Ruins are actually destination thrillers. And the idea came to me. So I've always used destinations as a backdrop. Yes.
Could you explain what you mean by destination thrillers?
Yes. So all my books always have a particular destination as a backdrop. But by destination thriller, I mean where the destination itself is one of the characters, or is like a clue, and there's a whole unraveling happening within the destination. And the clues are based in the destination, like on the walls, or, in the ceiling, or around it, that kind of a thing. So actually, there's a story attached to it. I was, backpacking with my husband in 1998, far back, and I went to Austria, and I came to this place called to Salzburg, and there was Schloss Leopoldskron, where the film Sound of Music was shot. And the moment I saw it, I said, hey, I want to, it looked so beautiful. I said, I want to base a book there. Luckily for me, in 2001, I was invited by the Salzburg Global Seminar to attend a seminar there on adapting books to films. And they own the Schloss Leopoldskron. So I entered the Schloss, which otherwise you cannot. And the moment I saw it, I knew that there was a thriller to be born here. It took me a long time, 12 years literally, but I went back there in 2014 and I based the Trail of Four there. And it's literally a story that takes place in the Schloss, as well as Salzburg, the old town, within 48 hours. And the clues are embedded in the destination. So that's why destination thrillers.
We have heard of destination weddings, but destination thriller is something new for me. So you actually made 2 trips to Salzburg.
I have been many times to Salzburg because I call it my soul town, literally. Oh, wow. And for the book, I went there and stayed in the Schloss for 20 days. And then I came back and I did a lot of back and forth. A lot of people helped me, of course, with the research, because, writing these books, the most difficult part of it was writing them like an insider. I mean, I didn't want people to think, here's an Indian author who's come and is trying to write about our town, our country. I wanted it to be a book like any other book, like an international thriller. So I really had to work hard on the research, on the language, on the food, culture, because only Ray Parker is half Indian in the book. The rest of the characters are all Austrian and German. So although the book is in English, of course. So that's the point of the destination thrillers. They don't have Indian characters. They have foreigners in it. And there's only one Ray Parker who's half Indian. So that's also why they're called destination thrillers, because the destination creates the whole plot. There's a thread from history that I take from that particular area and weave it into a contemporary plot. So it's all to do with the destination. And that is why destination thriller.
So whose point of view do you present in your stories, in your novels? The point of view of an outsider or an insider? Somebody who's inside the story or outside?
Well, so most of the times it's one of the characters, okay? And depending on the mystery, it is either inside or outside. But since you talked about point of view, there's one book which I'm particularly proud of, and that's Voice of the Ruins, okay, which is the second part in the Destination Thriller series, which takes place in Sweden. And of course, Ray Parker goes there, but the story does not take place from Ray Parker's viewpoint, who's a detective and who's solving the whole thing. It takes place from Maddie Lindbergh's, who's assistant to the professor who's murdered. And she helps him, in solving the crime. But the whole story takes place from her viewpoint, which was a huge challenge for me because it takes place in first-person narration. And, in thrillers, you take the story all over the place. There are multiple inputs from here, there. It's like fast paced. And that's what normally happens in a thriller. You take the reader on a quick ride, zooming all over the world and all that. So when you take a single viewpoint of a character who's not the detective, that becomes difficult. So for me, that was a real challenge, keeping the pace, keeping the viewpoints, keeping everything intact, and a thriller intact, writing from a viewpoint of Maddie Magdalene.
Do you, in your books, you have a Ray Parker, you have the sleuth. Do you also have a Dr. Watson surrogate?
Well, not necessarily Dr. Watson, but I do have, like, when Sonia works, she's got Jatin, who is more like, in awe of his boss, but who's also very patronizing and feels that she's not, professional enough, and is always trying to teach her how to behave, how to take money in advance and not do free cases. So I've got a kind of a sidekick. Yes, of course, is always there. But Watson, no, probably. Ray works alone completely. There's always a historian or a fellow to, kind of help him, but he works alone. Sonia has Jatin for sure.
And do you, there are a lot of these mystery novels, these detective novels, they begin with a crime, and then there's a gradual unfolding of the crime, finding the criminal. So the story moves in two directions. One, it goes back to trace the events that have led up to the crime, and it goes forward. Does it happen like that also for you? Does it work for you?
Yes, it works on multiple tracks. So I've got separate viewpoints happening. There's a protagonist viewpoint, there's a detective's viewpoint, there are other characters and the background history. And of course, there's a historical element in the books. So all these work on separate tracks, and towards the end of the book, they all come together to make sense. So yes, it moves backward and forward, and past tense and present tense and the future sometimes. And yes, that's how it happens. Yes.
So I was just wondering, typically, how many words, how long is your book?
Average? Well, average, it's about 75 plus for sure. It's about 80,000 words. Yeah,
that is a lot.
Yes.
Huh?
So the Trailer 4 was about
to sustain the interest for about 250 pages or so.
Yes. Yeah, but my plots are pretty complicated. They're very complex. I mean, they're not, you don't just get a simple murder, and it's not that way. There are multiple layers, of the plots, and they require those amount of words.
Do you have a blueprint before you begin, or does the story evolve as you start writing?
Yeah, I have a blueprint. I know who's done it, and I work backwards from there. Yeah, because that's the whole point. I mean, I think it's very important to know who's done it. And then when you work backwards, what are the red herrings, what are the clues, how to keep the element of surprise, alive in readers. So I don't leave anything to chance, unless, of course, sometimes a character takes over, or, that always happens. But usually I know what's going to happen.
There is a comment that's come in from Ashu.
Yes.
You talk of cities being characters in your story. So tell us about the personalities of the cities you have, and would love to include in future stories. You've already brought Salzburg into it. Which other cities would you like to include in your books?
Well, the second book has Lund, Lund, which is a part of Sweden, and the 350-year-old Lund University in it as the backdrop. And the speciality of the book is the runes. Runes are, so when I decided to base a book in Sweden, I had to learn the rune language a little bit, and the rune signs and symbols. And, rune stones are two types. One are the gravestones that they put up, everyone in Sweden you'll find by the roadside or wherever, and they have engravings in rune language. So literally I had to kind of, bring that mystique and intrigue into the book. So I love that kind of a, atmosphere in a town. My third book which is still to come out, but it's going to come out soon, is based in Germany, on the backdrop of Louis, what's his name? Who was the one who drowned in Lake Starnberg? Oh, one of the Louis, anyway.
Yes.
No, Louis II, sorry. Louis II who drowned. And so the whole backdrop of the story is in Lake Starnberg, where his body was found. So that's Bavarian landscape in the middle of snow, in the middle of winter, with a Christmassy backdrop. And we have this whole, it's called Mystery of the Snow Queen. It should be out next year, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now you've already published 17 books. Yes. Out of these 17, do you have any favorite? And why?
I know it's a very difficult question to answer, actually,
Your
because
favorite child, so to speak.
I know it's very difficult. I love all and each and every of my book. I take pride in whatever I've done, whether they sell or not. That's up to their
Okay, let me
destiny.
put it in a different way. Which was the
Yeah.
most difficult to write and why?
Well, The Voice of the Runes, like I said,
Oh,
was the most difficult to write. Yes,
because of
because
the research work that went into it.
the research, the single viewpoint, which was not the detectives, the rune language, the whole foreign locale, which I was very unfamiliar with, but I wanted to know like an insider. And also because at that point, I had a kind of a writer's block because I just lost my dog. And I just couldn't write the novel and it became very difficult. But I know that when I finished it, my heart was completely in the book, the whole emotion, the turbulence, everything had gone into the book. And I think that's why it was difficult as well as very satisfying to write Voice of the Runes.
I'm curious, when you paint your villains, when you create your villains in the story, there's always a good person and a bad person. Is the villain totally black or shades of gray?
Oh no, neither nor the heroes or heroines are black and white. Everyone's gray because there's a devil in every one of us and there's an angel in every one of us. I just like to bring them up from time to time because sometimes villains can be situational, sometimes they can be, born with that kind of a cruel nature or whatever. But so you cannot just blanketly label anyone as black and white, neither the heroes nor the villains.
Considering that you're so very prolific and I've been keeping track of your activities, you have so many speaking engagements and so many other commitments like PILF and so on. What is your routine like? When do you find time to write? Do you have a strict regimen that you follow? Or do you wait for inspiration?
No regimen. I am a very moody, nomadic kind of a person. I take every day as it comes. So I write only when I feel like writing. I don't treat it like a job. I write for passion. So I wait for that passionate moment and I wait for it to unfold. And otherwise it will become very technical and mechanical. And I don't want that to be. I want to enjoy the process of writing. So there's no routine. I just get up and decide, do I want to write today? If I do, I write. If I don't, I don't.
What is your target audience generally?
Well, it's adults who love mysteries and a little bit of romance is also part of it.
Children?
Yeah, mostly children. I have just ventured into children writing. I've come out with a book called Mystery at Mulber Cottage, which is like a children's book, of adventurous children book. And I've come out with a fantasy called The Adventures of Mithu, who's a magical kitten who is banished to the land of human beings, and to better matters there. So.
Sounds very engaging, really. I think we should have another talk about the children's writing that you do. But let us focus on your mystery and suspense, because apparently that is what you like best of all.
Yes.
Now tell me, Manjiri, have you ever encountered rejection? And how do you take it?
Oh, lots of times. Every book is like a nightmare for me to get it published. No matter how many books you publish, every book becomes a whole new journey, and I take rejections to heart. I'm not the kind who will say, oh, so what, it was rejected. I can't. I feel it. I sob, I cry, but I do get up and then I try to analyze the situation. I feel there are reasons that a book is rejected. I don't believe that it was the quality. I believe it's the wrong fit. I believe sometimes that, they don't want that right at that moment, or somebody else has probably written a similar book or whatever. There's many reasons why rejections happen. So I keep telling myself, this is an opportunity for something big to come. Like I said, with the Cosmic Clues and Astral Lullaby, they were rejected by the Indian publishers, but I got a deal with Random House USA, which was, earning in dollars, and an advance with which I could quit my job. So things happen for the best, I always believe. So even though I take rejections temporarily to heart, I do get up and start working again.
What advice would you give someone who wants to start writing in this genre?
I keep saying this.
Should they read? Should they read? How important is reading for writing?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't become a writer if you're not a reader. I mean, that's the bottom line of it is if you read, you will write. If you don't read, you cannot become a writer. I don't believe that there are writers without readers. Yeah, so that's not possible. So the advice I would give is, the reason why you need to read mystery genres because everything has already been done there. There's always a murder or a crime. There are suspects. So it's a format. What you have to do is go beyond the format and give something more original because it's already done. Somebody like Agatha Christie has already done everything that has to be done. So what difference? What is it that you can give different for readers? And for that, you need to really know your craft, I feel. And my advice is, of course, read a lot is the first one. Second advice is write if you really must. I don't believe that even if there is a writer and everyone must become a writer. I don't think it's for everyone. I think because there's no money in this, it's just satisfaction. You have to, work your, slog to get the books out there, to be read, to find readers. It's a lonely, tedious journey. So there are other better lucrative things to do if you really, are looking for that kind of satisfaction. But if you really must write and you feel it's like burning a hole inside you, then you have to give it your complete dedication and just go out there and don't chase. There are people nowadays who want to become brands. I'll say just become writers, focus on being writers, good writers.
Manjiri, do you have any books within reach that you could talk about, that you could show us on the screen?
Oh, right now, one second, excuse me. Let me see if I have one here. I have the children books. Unfortunately not, I didn't sit with my books. But we already spoke about the Trail of Four and Voice of the Runes. So that's it, and the Cosmic and all.
And what are you planning to write now, or what are you writing now?
So I am, I'm working on multiple projects, but the book that I'm really looking forward to, which is going to come out in May, is a non-fiction book. Okay. And
what?
It's a non-fiction book, and it's called The Doctrine of Peace. Okay. And like you mentioned, I'm a crazy dog fan. I believe dogs are my gurus and my spiritual guides. And I believe in this theory that if you love dogs, you're already on to the spiritual path, because dogs give you more love than you know what to do with it. And it's an unfolding process. If you just follow them and believe in them, and they will lead to world peace if you follow my doctrine of peace. So it's a spiritual book. It's a non-fiction book. It's my lifetime work. I've worked with dogs, and it's going to be a good book. Hopefully it's coming out in May.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. I was just wondering, Sakshi, are there any questions that have come up on Facebook?
Oh.
Sakshi, are there any questions that have come up on Facebook?
Okay, here, my husband very kindly brought out the books for me. This is The Voice of the Runes, the one I said I love and has my heart and soul in it. Okay, this
great.
is it. Yeah, and of course the Astral Lullaby, which is also republished as Stellar Signs in India. And well, yeah, you have the Cavern-Side Conspiracy, which was published by Rupa Publications, is also a thriller which takes place over 48 hours, spanning continents. I love to span continents in a limited period of time. It's very challenging to have, the flights and the time differences and everything. Extremely satisfying to write that.
Sounds so interesting. Sakshi, any questions that have come up?
Ma'am, not on Facebook, but there's one from Ashu ma'am in the chat box.
Oh, yes.
She's asking, you talk of cities being characters in your stories.
No, we've already done that.
We did that.
And there is another one. Are there any dogs in your thrillers?
Any dogs in your thrillers?
Well, not dogs, but I have cats. So this book, The Astral Lullaby and the Cosmic Clues, there's a cat called Nidhi in it, and she brings Sonia her first case. And she's very, very intricately involved in the story, in the storyline. She belongs to somebody, and it's all very neatly woven. I mean, she's not a cat who just comes in. She adopts Sonia literally, and she plays a very important role in the book. So, and she's there throughout in the series continuously. So yes, cats. Dogs, of course, in Mystery at Mulbar Cottage, I have a dog, like 4 kids, the 4 cousins, and then there's a dog.
Something like the 5 Fine Doubters or the famous.
Yes. Something like that, but they're more cousins. They call the spunky cousins. So, yeah. So, but yes, it has the Enterblighten touch to it.
So it's been great talking to you, Manjiri, and we could go on and on.
I
But
know.
and we haven't talked about the literature festivals that you organize, because the session which is going to follow now, it's dovetailing into this particular.
Yes.
In that, we are
Yes.
going to be talking about the
Yeah.
literature festival.